855-695-3744 and pressing star 3 to be placed in the queue for comment. Please note, if you would like to speak on more than one item on tonight's agenda, you'll need to press star 3 each time to be placed back in the queue. Public comment will be limited to 90 minutes total per item. The first 1 through 15 participants in the queue have 3 minutes to speak. The next 16 through 25 participants in the queue have 2 minutes to speak. If time remains, the next 26 plus participants in the queue have 1.5 minutes to speak. Again, that number is 855-695-3744 and press star 3 to be placed in the queue. Screeners will ask callers for their first and last name, neighborhood, and the agenda item the caller would like to comment on. Please call several minutes before the agenda item and press star 3 to ensure you're placed in the queue for comment. Public comment will also be taken during the public comment section for topics not on tonight's agenda. Again, using the process previously outlined. The number, one more time, is 855-695-3744 and press star 3 to be placed in the queue. The City Council meeting is called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson.
Here.
Castriata.
Here.
Hinkle.
Here.
Groom. Dezerski.
Here.
Law Evans.
Here.
Lim.
Here.
Limstead.
Here.
Staff.
Here.
Tessier.
Here. Thank you. A quorum is present. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In an effort to keep order for tonight's meeting, I ask council to please utilize the video conferencing tools to raise their hand for comment or when making a motion or second. I'll call on the first hand raised to state the motion and the second hand raised to make the second as appropriate. I ask council members to limit their comments to 5 minutes. Abby will be assisting with timekeeping and will provide council members with a notification when they have 1 minute remaining. Please ensure you're on mute when not speaking. If a council member needs to leave the meeting, please inform me before doing so. We'll plan on a 10-minute break at approximately 8 p.m. We will begin with council's review and approval of this evening's agenda. Council may add or remove items from the consent agenda, or council may revise the order of business for the meeting. Does any member of the council have any comments or questions regarding this evening's agenda? Seeing none, we're going to move on to petitions and communications. This evening, we have 3 proclamations. The first proclamation this evening is declaring June 2021 as LGBTQIA Pride Month, which I'm going to read. The city and county of Broomfield is a welcoming community and an exceptional place to live, learn, work, play, and raise a family. And whereas the city and county of Broomfield recognizes the importance of equity and freedom, and whereas the city and county of Broomfield's LGBTQIA+ community are a vital part of Broomfield and contribute and inform a stronger community. And whereas the city and county of Broomfield is dedicated to fostering inclusion of all of its residents and preventing discrimination and bullying based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and family makeup. And whereas the city and county of Broomfield is strengthened by and thrives upon the rich intersectional diversity of ethnic, cultural, racial, gender, and sexual identities of its residents, all of which contribute to the vibrant character and integrity of our city. And whereas it is imperative that all people in the community, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, feel valued, physically and psychologically safe, empowered, and supported by their peers, educators, and community leaders. And whereas Broomfield has made a commitment to advancing the equitable treatment of all residents as a welcoming community, we recognize the importance of upholding the truth that LGBTQIA rights are human rights. Now, therefore, I, Guyleen, Mayor Pro Tem of the City and County of Broomfield, do hereby declare and proclaim June 2021 as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month in Broomfield. And I urge residents to recognize the contributions made by members of the LGBTQIA+ community and actively promote the principles of equity and liberty. Thank you. We will now proceed with public comment. I don't see any. So let's proceed with any council member comments. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. When you spoke tonight, it gave me chills, so I might cry. I just wanted to let everyone know, as a Christian, I wanted to just speak tonight. I couldn't be more proud of Broomfield to include all people, to be valued and included. I also want to say that while I'm a Christian, our faith-based communities have a lot of work to do to truly love and embrace our LGBTQ community. I just want to speak truth through a grace lens, understanding that our faith-based organizations do a lot of great work with our unhoused, mental health, and more. We also have to weigh youth suicide, however, to consider, and this is a holistic view of who Christ intends us to love in this world, and love thoroughly and fully. I spent a good hour talking on the phone with a kid I used to mentor in the church when I was a youth group leader. She attended Colorado Christian University and became a youth leader for a Christian organization. She said she knew in high school that she was gay, but she stayed closeted in order to be accepted by this organization. She has since quit her job as the faith-based organization just released their final statement on the matter after a year of wrestling with scripture, and this organization has decided not to be LGBTQ affirming. The release of the document to staff was watermarked, and employee numbers were attached to each distribution on their final papers. It was not meant for public consumption, but held in the dark corners of the organization where they can be ambiguous. After hundreds of stories of youth being harmed by the organization, they still refuse to be affirming of our LGBTQ neighbors. So while a faith-based organization can claim they are welcoming, if you want to be married by the pastor or have a leadership role, you are told you must live a celibate life, or you are just told you must go elsewhere. After years of developing relationships with those they trusted and were told they were loved by the members, this young lady I chatted with told her fellow workers today, coworkers, her past coworkers, that if they cannot love the organization and her as well. And although the organization in this instance happens to be Young Life, and I'll send you all the link to their documents, there are so many more that just need to be more clear on what their stance is. So Christians, stand firm in holding your church leaders accountable and being clear on your theology. A good website to go to in order to see if churches are affirming for both LGBTQ and women in the church is churchclarity.org. And Christians, if you're willing to at least wrestle with the issue, a good book is called Unclobbered, as it takes you through the scripture to actually love your neighbors and hear stories of those who have been in the church. The more I read the Bible and the more we understand context and read it like Jesus would, the more we will land on love. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Henkel. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to our next proclamation, is declaring June 4th, 2021 as Gun Violence Prevention Day. That proclamation. This is a proclamation declaring June 4th, 2021 as the third annual Gun Violence Prevention Day in the City and County of Broomfield, Colorado. Whereas protecting public safety is Broomfield's highest responsibility, and whereas when elected officials, law enforcement, and local government work together with residents, there is a collaborative effort in keeping everyone safe. And whereas numerous public health organizations and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment have identified gun violence as a major public health issue. And whereas CDC data from a 5-year period, 2013 to 2018, demonstrates that every day 100 Americans lose their lives to gun violence and more than 300 sustain non-fatal firearm injuries. And in Colorado, over 830 people died due to a firearm in 2019. And whereas from 2016 to 2019, 31 Broomfield residents died by firearm, and the vast majority of firearm-related deaths in Colorado and Broomfield are attributed to suicides. And whereas this is a disproportionate impact of gun violence on males, with 77% of Broomfield's gun deaths occurring in males. And whereas gun violence and the reaction to it threaten our health and well-being, stigmatize people recovering from mental illnesses, and re-traumatize individuals and families that have been victims of gun violence. And whereas American Psychological Association advocates for public health approach to gun violence prevention, supporting evidence-based programs and policies that can reduce the occurrence and impact of firearm-related violence. And whereas addressing gun violence requires a comprehensive approach, including data tracking, research, community outreach, and resources to expand mental health resources. And whereas the City and County of Broomfield joins communities across the nation in recognizing National Gun Violence Awareness. Now, therefore, I, Guyleen Castriata, Mayor Pro Tem of the City and County of Broomfield, do hereby declare and proclaim June 4th, 2021 as Gun Violence Prevention Day in Broomfield. I invite all citizens in the community to use this day to raise awareness and increase understanding about gun violence in the Broomfield community. Thank you. We will now proceed to public comments. There are none, so we'll proceed with any council member comments. Seeing none, we'll move on to our next proclamation, declaring Friday, June 4th, also 2021, as Arbor Day in Broomfield. 2020 Tree City USA recipient by the National Arbor Day Foundation. The third and final proclamation will be read by the clerk.
Proclamation declaring June 4th, 2021 as Arbor Day in the City and County of Broomfield. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce wind and water, the erosion of precious topsoil, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource for paper, wood products, fuel for fires, and countless other products. And whereas trees increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and provide a source of pleasure and spiritual renewal. And whereas Broomfield has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for the 29th consecutive year. Now, therefore, Guyleen Castriata, Mayor Pro Tem of the City and County of Broomfield, does hereby declare and proclaim June 4th, 2021 as Arbor Day in Broomfield.
Thank you. We will proceed with public comment. See any? So any council member comments are next. All right, moving along. Thank you. Next is a presentation on brouhaha. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I will ask our staff to summarize.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Welcome to another council meeting on this beautiful evening as the sun begins to peek in behind us. It's a perfect time to introduce Kay Gazaway, who's going to tell us all about our brouhaha this year. Kay, good to see you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. And I am very pleased to be here to talk about brouhaha. Our 5th annual is coming up this June the 12th at the Arista Park. It is our first festival of the season and we are thrilled to be hosting it. We're going to start the day with recreation by hosting a free yoga session on the lawn at Arista Park at 10:30. The street then around Arista Park will get closed at noon and we will open the gates to brouhaha. It is a free event open to all ages and we simply check IDs and give age-appropriate wristbands to all the guests. There will be 2 live bands at the festival. The first one will be Sweet Summer Band with very danceable music. And then at 2:30, we switch over to Hot Lunch and they will be playing some very iconic cover songs. So everyone should be having a great time by then. We will also have our popular lawn games back. We have some giant size Jenga and Connect 4 and checkers, and of course, lots of cornhole for the day. The area breweries will be pouring some very delicious and interesting new flavors of beer for you all to sample. And we have a fun food lineup with some new food trucks. We're gonna have some things like bourbon chicken and pot stickers and gourmet mac and cheese and egg rolls. So I think you're gonna love that. Brouhaha is a zero waste event. And so we will have compostable cups, compostable serviceware, and we have zero waste stations at the festival staffed by volunteers who've been trained on how to help our guests divert their waste from the landfill. In our early brouhaha days, we made a very impressive diversion rate of 87%. So we are hoping to recreate that again this year. And then lastly, there is a vendor fair at the festival and it will host things like products and services and some art that would be appropriate for young professionals and a modern lifestyle. So we're also talking to several city departments to see about their participation in brouhaha. Gives them a nice opportunity to reach out to a different group of our residents than our festivals normally draw. So that's a brief overview on brouhaha at Arista. I am very much looking forward to hosting again this year and getting launched with our summer season. But I am also happy to answer any questions you might have.
Kay, can you remind everyone of the date and time?
Saturday, June 12th from 12 to 5 out at Arista Park.
And where's
Saturday,
the best place to
June
park?
12th. What?
The best place to park?
The parking garage right by First Bank will be open for free parking. And then of course the side streets are open as well. Good question.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gazaway. We're so excited to get back into having some fun outside. And
Broomfield's ready to have some fun.
I think so. I'm looking for public comments and I don't see any, so I will go over to council. Do you have any comments? Seeing none, we will keep moving along. Thank you so much, Ms. Gazaway. Welcome back. Good to see your face.
Thank you very much.
Next item under petitions and communications this evening is a presentation on the 2021 Broomfield Trail Adventure. Council has a copy of the agenda and I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you again, Mayor Pro Tem. Pete Dunleavy, our Open Space and Trails Manager. Just a super fun night for all of us getting back together in person, outside, enjoying Broomfield. Pete, tell us about the trail adventure this year. We don't have a filler for Pete, so.
Clay can kind of like, make it up, right?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
There you go.
All right. Sorry about that. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Pete Dunleavy, our Open Space and Trails Manager. And good evening to Mayor Pro Tem and the City Council. In keeping with the brouhaha theme of some fun upcoming events, we wanted to invite the council and the community to the 2021 Broomfield Trail Adventure and the Broomfield 100. This year marks the 20th annual Broomfield Trail Adventure, which is hard for me to believe, and the 7th annual Broomfield 100. So our event, the Trail Adventure, is celebrated on the first Saturday in June every year, and that is National Trails Day, where all across the country there's celebrations of local trails and communities. And this year we're proceeding with a shared but separated self-guided event due to the uncertainty of some of the COVID scenarios this spring. But we'll encourage people to participate anytime over the weekend of June 5th and June 6th. With that said, we encourage people to take advantage of 2 different trail loops on Saturday, June 5th in the morning, because we're going to have some interpretive features along the trail loops between 8 a.m. and noon on Saturday morning. In regards to why we've chosen these 2 loops, it really speaks to the original roots and purpose of the event, which is to promote sections of the local trail system that are either new or people in the community do not know about. And so in both cases, we have one loop up in the north in Anthem Highlands that features a new crossing of the community ditch and some new trails and green belts through Anthem Highlands and near Prospect Ridge Academy. The other loop in the southern part of the community connects Interlochen East Park to Josh's Pond via our new Sheps Crossing Bridge. And I guess COVID scenario sort of cheated us out of doing a proper ribbon cutting for that bridge, although we did have a very nice video that was developed. But we see this as an opportunity to really invite the community out to see this bridge and use Sheps Crossing to make that connection between a lot of our residents and the bikeway and the Interlochen area. So if you can go to the next slide. Yeah, I'll just go through some quick maps. Here's some maps of the route. Again, this is that southern route connecting East Park to Josh's Pond, and this is about 3.3 miles out and back. And we'll have some features along this trail, posters at Sheps Crossing with a little bit of the history of that area and some details about the new bridge. We'll have an iNaturalist station at Josh's Pond, and that's our Broomfield Naturalist programs. It's a great way to learn about local flora and fauna around Broomfield and make observations about wildlife. And at East Park, we'll also be doing a seed giveaway to participants, and we appreciate the help of the CSU Extension in making that happen. The next slide shows the northern loop. And so this loop, there's parking available at Prospect Ridge Academy or at several parks along the way in this loop. You can join and go in any direction you'd like. And for this, we're also coordinating with the Baseline Development to help promote some of the trails in that area and also provide some information about some of the exciting things that are coming up with that development and some of the trail connections that we can expect in the future in that area. Next slide. Just wanted to touch quickly on the Broomfield Trail Adventure. Again, this is our 7th annual community sort of challenge to have residents explore the trail system and other outdoor features, parks, community events. Last year, we were really limited to doing just trail loops because there really weren't any events taking place. We have added 5 more sort of outdoor events to this year's event. So we have 15 trail loops and 5 outdoor events. That includes like the outdoor concert series, the Broomfield Nature Program events and things like that. We will once again have a virtual passport. And so this is something we've been working on with our staff and IT and GIS to develop this passport. And it'll have maps, features, details, amenities for each loop, and some interactive features where users can check in or post pictures and share experiences. Next slide. With that, we really, first I just want to thank some of the other staff that's involved in this. Again, our GIS department, our Parks and Recreation staff, our communications staff, the police, the library, the CSU Extension, and our open space team. I'm so appreciative of that group, and that these events really are a team effort. I just wanted to, invite the council and the community, and we have more information about this on our website, as you can see there, broomfieldopenspace.com. I don't want to take any more of your time. I know you have a long agenda tonight, but I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dunleavy. We'll first go to public comments, but I do not see anyone that's waiting to comment. So let's go over to City Council. Any comments from City Council or questions? Seeing none, we'll move along. Thank you so much, Pete. We're looking forward to it, and I'm sure we'll see you on the trail soon.
Thank you.
All right, and our final item under petitions and communications this evening is a presentation on the 2021 One Book, One Broomfield program. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thanks very much. Catherine Skeels, our collection development librarian and volunteer coordinator, is going to talk about the wonderful book that they've selected under the One Book, One Broomfield program. Catherine.
Thank you so much, and good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and City Manager. My name is Catherine Skeels, and I am a collection development librarian and volunteer coordinator at the Broomfield Library. This evening, I'm very excited to announce the 2021 One Book, One Broomfield selection. The selected title for this year is Afterlife by Julia Alvarez. Afterlife is the first adult novel in almost 15 years by Miss Alvarez, who wrote the bestsellers In the Time of Butterflies and How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accents. In Afterlife, Antonio Vega is a recently retired professor and novelist enjoying life when tragedy strikes. Her beloved husband suddenly passes away. Still reeling from her husband's death, Antonio's world is turned upside down again when her older sister Izzy goes missing, and when Antonio finds herself helping an undocumented pregnant woman. Themes of sisterhood, grief, and immigration are interlaced with humor in this hopeful novel. Afterlife was one of Time magazine's must-read books of 2020 and featured rave reviews in the New York Times, Library Journal, the Washington Post, and many other websites and publications. Miss Alvarez is a Dominican-American poet, novelist, and essayist. She has won numerous awards, including the Hispanic Heritage Award, the F. Scott Fitzgerald Award, and the National Medal of Arts. The committee brought 4 titles to a public vote this year, with the goal of our community choosing the 2021 title. The committee brought this title to the community vote due to its discussions around grief and the strong themes of family. The community vote took place from February 15th to March 31st, and Afterlife was a clear winner. The author talk will occur on November 6th at 6 p.m. and will be held virtually. The author talk will be live streamed through our Facebook page and website, and a recording will be available on YouTube following the event. Library programming staff are currently planning programs to host before the author event to support community conversations around this title. I would like to thank Mayor Quinn and Councilmember Devin Schaaf, as well as the other community members who have participated in this year's selection process. The One Book program would not be possible without their numerous reading hours, thoughtful discussions, and dedication to bringing another great author and title to Broomfield. We are excited about this title and look forward to November and Ms. Alvarez's author talk. Thank you, and at this point, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Skeels. There are no public comments in the queue, so we can go directly to council member comments. And we'll start with Councilmember Schaaf.
You know, with so many wonderful proclamations tonight and community event updates, I really didn't want to speak on everything. So I chose this one just because this is one that I've been involved with for the last 3 years. And it is such a privilege to be on this committee and working with this staff and working with these community members. We had a major change this year to put forth 4 books to a community vote. We've never done this before, and we wanted to try it out. And we got such a great response back from the community on this. We put forth 4 excellent authors and 4 great books. And the 2021 selection I found out at our last meeting, so I've had to keep my mouth shut until now. So I'm so excited that we can finally announce Julia Alvarez as our author and the book Afterlife as our selection for this year. You know, following this year, you know, this book is really a great selection for our community. You know, and thinking back on this past year where we've seen grief and where we've seen loss, this book really tells a story of struggle and resilience and hope. And it is such an appropriate book for us to be really kind of on this tail end of this pandemic, really kind of going into this new world. It is also written, the book is also written in a style that is unique. It doesn't have any quotation marks, even though people are talking, and I've never seen that before. And so it's a great read, though. So again, thank you to the staff and the committee for your work. Thank you to the community for your involvement, and to my council colleagues for your support of this program. I hope that you'll pick up a copy of Afterlife at the Broomfield Library or at your bookstore of choice. So thank you again.
Thank you, Councilmember Schaaf. Anyone else? All right, well, I can't wait till we're back in the chambers and we get a copy of the book. Hint, hint.
Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Gill. Okay. Next is public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on matters other than the items already listed on this evening's agenda. And I do not see anyone in the general comment queue. Council's community and event updates are next. Does any member of council have an update this evening? Councilmember Schaaf.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. If you missed the performance of There Will Be Light, the theater production presented by Backstory Theater, you really missed out, but not entirely. While I was slated to watch the performance this past weekend in person, I pulled muscle in my back, which prevented me from attending in the theater. But I was able to get a ticket to watch this performance online. And while it wasn't the same experience as sitting in the theater, which I greatly miss, the show was still amazing. And the great news is that these virtual show tickets are still available for purchase now until Monday, May 31st. So if you missed out on the in-person theater showing, or you figured you missed the show altogether, you still have a chance to get a ticket. So buy those at Backstory Theater, and you have until Monday, May 31st.
Thank you very much. I wrote that down. Any other council members have any community updates or events? All right. I'm muted. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Council's consideration of the consent agenda is next. We will review tonight's consent agenda in two parts, as item 7K is a request for an executive session and requires separate motions. Following the clerk's reading of consent agenda items 7A through 7J, we will ask for public comments. Will the clerk please read agenda items 7A through 7J by title?
Item 7A, approval of minutes from regular meeting of May 11, 2021. 7B, resolution number 2021-104, authorizing the name of the publicly owned park and Anthem filing number 20 replat. 7C, resolution number 2021-105, authorizing the naming of a portion of the publicly owned property at the indoor playground located within the Paul Durda Recreation Center as the Carolyn Johnson Playground. 7D, resolution number 2021-106, authorizing the naming of a portion of the publicly owned property at Northmore Park Baseball Field as Robert Woody Woodbury Field. 7E, resolution number 2021-90, authorizing and approving an agreement by and between the City and County of Broomfield and C&L Water Solutions, Inc. for the Sewer Mainline Rehabilitation Project. 7F, resolution number 2021-97, authorizing and approving an agreement by and between the City and County of Broomfield and Vortex Services LLC for the 2021 water line replacement, interlocking booster zone 1 to airport zone water line connections, and Broomfield Town Center / Chase Streets water distribution loop. 7G is resolution number 2021-108, authorizing and approving an agreement by and between the City and County of Broomfield and ACK Construction LLC for the Bronco Park restroom building replacement. 7H is resolution number 2021-107, authorizing and approving a permit for the 2021 fireworks display on July 4. I is resolution number 2021-87, authorizing and approving amendment number 3 to the intergovernmental agreement with the Boulder Valley School District number RE-2 for the use of fiber optic cable. 7J is ordinance number 2153, designating certain real property owned by the City and County of Broomfield as roadway right-of-way and dedicating such property to public use. First reading.
Thank you. We will now proceed to public comments, and there is someone being screened, but it may take a few minutes. So I will go to Councilmember Law Evans while the caller is being.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to comment that I really appreciate the council's consideration of the renaming for Northmore Park, and then also the indoor playground at Paul Dorter Rec Center. Those were both brought forth by citizens, and I think I sat on the committees that reviewed those, and very, very touching stories of people's affection for their loved ones, and I sure would like to see this passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tessier.
Thank you. I wanted to comment specifically on the 2021-105, the renaming of the indoor playground. I met Carolyn over 12 years ago. I walked into my first PTO meeting, and she just kind of had a way about her. I knew from the moment I heard the first words out of her mouth that she was a firecracker, and she was hilarious, and she was a force to reckon with. She got stuff done. She was quite an inspiration for me. And I just remember seeing her like elvish, like grin, and I am touched that this renaming is happening, and I just wanted to let Logan and Cooper know that you're, and Commander Johnson, that your mom, your wife, was truly loved in this community, and I want to celebrate her life and honor her. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tessier. There was a gentleman on the call, Jay Johnson, but he dropped off. So I'm wondering, it was for 7C. I'm thinking that they were going to make comments as well. So I will keep an eye on that, but they're gone now. Happened. Did anyone else?
Mayor Pro Tem, we're gonna try to get Jay back on the line.
Okay.
So when we see him coming back on, he and the boys actually. So
okay.
We'll let.
He may have changed his mind, but I sit on the Parks and Rec board with Councilmember Law Evans, and I think he attended a couple of meetings to make his case as to why we should name the ball field, and same with the playground. The family members who came forward, and I couldn't agree more. I think we need to approve these, and they just have such a solid foundation in Broomfield and what we believe and what kind of community we are. I see Jill Johnson she's calling back in. So I don't know, did anybody else want to comment on the fireworks? That means we're going to have fireworks. We're going to have 4th of July. I've been getting a lot of questions. So it is confirmed that hopefully we'll just have them on July 4th and not all month at random times and hours like it was last time. Ooh. but who knows? Screening is taking place. It's a process. All right. Mr. Johnson, are you there?
I am, thank you.
Thank you. You're on. Go ahead.
Well, I will tell you that my son Cooper, give me a second, sorry. He wrote this up unbeknownst to me, and I know he is online right now watching this with Matt Gully. So if you would like to talk to him, if you guys would like to connect with him. So I don't want to delay your meeting too much longer, but I was just very proud of him for doing this.
Well, we are grateful that they brought it forward and we were able to get this done. I know it took a few months, but it's finally happening. So perseverance pays off. Thank you so much.
Yes. He's probably going to be mad at me for putting him on the spot. So
I don't think so. I think it's a wonderful tribute. Very happy to be able to do this.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, I appreciate staff trying to get him reconnected. Did any council member have any comments on the consent agenda? Council member Shab.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So, this is a great, and I'm commenting on item 7D on the renaming of the naming of Northmore Baseball Field. What's great about this is that we will be celebrating this at our annual 4th of July softball game. So, I'm looking forward to winning one for Mr. Woodbury. So I'm happy to do that and look forward to that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then before asking for a motion, I want to remind everyone that item 7I is an intergovernmental agreement and requires a 2/3 approval of council. Is there a motion that the recommendations contained in the staff reports for agenda items 7A through 7J be approved? Councilmember Tessier.
So moved. And if I know I'm off, but it was my understanding that Commander Johnson wanted Cooper to maybe say something because he was with Matt. So I was hoping that we could have that happen.
Sure, why not? Mr. Gully, are you there? Oh, good. Okay, you have the floor.
I am. I'm sorry. We cut out for just a second, so we didn't hear the. I assume the question was if they would like to have Cooper talk to Cooper for a second.
That's correct. Hi, Cooper.
Okay. Hi, nice to meet you and everyone else. A while back, it was last June, my mom, Carolyn Johnson, passed away. And she did a lot for the community around Broomfield, and I felt like she was a very radiant personality. And every time people would talk to me about her, it was always positive. And I was thinking that there needed to be something around her to keep her legacy going in this city. And while I was thinking about that, I remembered that she did a lot of designing for this indoor playground here at Paul Durda and how much fun she had designing it. And she got to put her own Jeep in here, and she's wanted a Jeep since she was a little girl. So she had a lot of fun designing that. And I just think it would be perfect to put her name on it.
Thank you so much. I think you're going to get your wish. Give us just a couple seconds here.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Shav?
Second.
All right. Well, is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezerski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Will the city and county attorney please read the amended motion for item 7K?
I'm getting to the script, sorry. I was just making sure I had my notes right for the last item. This is a request for executive session that one be held on June 1st, 2021, after the conclusion of council's study session for the purpose of receiving legal advice regarding extraction, oil and gas, litigation, and operations as permitted by CRS section 24-6-4024B.
Is there a motion? Councilmember Shaw?
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Anderson?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Castriata,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezerski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Next, this evening, we have the COVID-19 update for the Board of Health's review. The meeting of the Board of Health is called to order. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll for the Board of Health.
Anderson,
Here.
Castriata,
Here.
Groom, Hinkle,
Here.
Jezerski,
Here.
Law Evans,
Here.
Lim,
Here.
Lindstedt,
Here.
Schaff,
Here.
Tessier.
Here.
The quorum is present. Board members have a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask the staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Director of Public Health, Jason Volling, and Deputy Director of Public Health, Deb Fetterspill, will walk us through the brief COVID-19 update. Jason.
Thanks, Ms. Hoffman, and good evening, Board Chair and board members. Yeah, it's nice to actually be in front of the board presenting good news on COVID-19. And what you can see is cases across the nation, the state, and here in Broomfield are declining. And that leads to declining hospitalizations. And soon we'll expect to see our deaths start to decline, as well as it's a lagging figure. The great news in Broomfield is we're at our lowest case rate for a 7-day incidence since last September, and way to go, Broomfield residents, to get us there. The reason for that is the vaccines are working as we expected, and we have the highest vaccine rate in the metro area as far as those that have initiated or completed a vaccine, and we have the 6th highest rate in the state. As we continue to move through this process in dealing with the pandemic, we'll continue to provide guidance to the public for those individuals that are not vaccinated yet. Additionally, just to be extremely clear, Broomfield, along with the metro area counties, have moved to level clear, which means there's no capacity restrictions at this point in time. We'll follow that until August 16th. And if our hospitalization metrics still look good, we'll be able to finally remove all restrictions, including the public health order. And then lastly, we're anxiously awaiting to see what the governor is going to do with the state mask order, which expires on June 1st, and if he will keep it in place for those certain settings like schools, prisons, healthcare settings, and others. And once we get that update from the state, we'll be sharing that with council. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Volling. We will now proceed with public comment. Takes a sec for it to, and there's no one there. So now we'll go to board member comments or questions. No? Wow. Okay. So we're moving on. There is no business. Oh, thank you, Mr. Volling. We're moving on. There's no business before the Broomfield Housing Authority this evening. Our first item under council business this evening is the public hearing and council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2021-86, authorizing an amendment to the Interlochen Advanced Technology Environment PUD plan and preliminary plat. I'll now declare the public hearing open. We will follow the city's standard public hearing procedures. First, staff will present a summary of the proposal. Next, we will have the applicant's presentation, if applicable. Then we will ask for public comments, and final comments from the applicant will follow. And then finally, questions from the city council members. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I will ask staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Anna Bertanzetti, Director of Planning, will walk us through this item tonight. And again, the applicants are here for a brief presentation and a Q&A session afterwards. Anna.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. If we could have the next slide, please. So Anna Bertanzetti, Planning Director. The application, this first application before you this evening is for consideration of a planned unit development PUD text amendment. This would be the 13th amendment to the Interlochen PUD, and it would add 234 multifamily residential units, so that could be apartments and townhomes, to the allowed uses for a single parcel that is located at 400 Interlochen Crescent. The property is approximately 6.5 acres in size, and it is lot 1 of Interlochen filing number 14. The property is located south of the Interlochen Golf Course, and it is and the Omni Resort, and it is east of an existing multifamily residential development, north of an office building housing the Web Route business, and west of Vail Resorts. Next slide, please. The comprehensive plan designation for this subject property is mixed use commercial. The proposed amendment to add residential units is consistent with this designation in the comprehensive plan. The 2021 long-range financial plan assumed this property would be developed as professional or corporate office uses. The proposed development is not consistent, therefore, with the long-range financial plan, and if approved, the PUD amendment would result in a negative impact to the long-range financial plan, reducing the expenditures to revenues ratio from 1.0360 to 1.0352, and it would decrease the projected annual revenue at build-out by $238,203. Next slide, please. As previously discussed, this request is for an amendment to the Interlochen PUD plan. As I mentioned, 234 units to be allowed. And this amendment would be just limited to this subject property. A future site development plan would be required to identify the final design, access, configuration, and final use for the property. On March 22nd, 2021, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this proposal and recommended 6-1 to recommend approval of the proposed amendment. There were no conditions as a part of this approval or recommendation of approval. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting for this project on March 1st of this year, and the applicant is complete to the best of our knowledge, and all of the notification requirements have been met, including notification to renters in the adjacent apartments to the west. Staff did identify one key issue, and we note there was a typo in the original presentation that stated there were 3 key issues or multiple key issues, and it is just the one key issue that is also in the staff memorandum. And this is the previously discussed impact to the long-range financial plan. And that concludes staff's presentation. And as was mentioned, the applicant is here this evening and has a presentation as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Burton-Zetti. Next is a presentation by the applicant. Just as we encourage staff to keep their presentations brief, I ask the applicant to be concise in their presentation. Will the applicant's representative please identify themselves for the record prior to beginning their brief presentation this evening?
Well, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. My name is Jay Despard. I'm the Senior Managing Director for Hines in the state of Colorado. Been with the firm for 20 years. Been a part of Interlochen since 2005. We have developed an office building, which is now the GoGo Wireless building at the east end of the park. Owned Mountain View Corporate Campus for a number of years. This slide here is sort of indicative of what we intend on building on this parcel. Sans the palm trees, obviously, given our climate, but this is a project we did as a firm in San Antonio and speaks to the quality of the product we're pursuing here. Next slide, please. Hines is the largest private real estate development company in the world. I won't bore you with all of these numbers reading verbatim off the slide, but in Colorado, we have 85 employees. We own / manage about 5 million square feet of commercial office space downtown in Denver. We're active across literally all product types, whether it's single family housing, office, industrial, and multifamily. You can go to the next slide. And I was just sort of speaking to the different products that we pursue. You know, it's every product type under the sun. Usually really large scale developments. If you go to the next slide. I think the one that people are sort of recognizing us for lately is, you know, the completion of 1144 15th Street in downtown, which now people are calling the Optiv building because it has a sign that says Optiv, and that's what you do in Denver. You name buildings after what sign's at the top. So we're very pleased with how that project turned out. It's 100% leased. You know, even during the pandemic, the amount of people showing up to work in that building was very encouraging. The middle sort of bottom one is EOS. That's what we used to call the project before GoGo Wireless used it as their Colorado headquarters. And that's at the east end of Interlochen. You can go to the next slide. So this site, like I mentioned, we've been a part of Interlochen since 2005, really. We developed EOS in 2011, 2012. I've been on the various ownership association boards as well as the architectural control committee for at least 7 or 8 years. And so, you know, as a commercial developer, our first intention in the park is to develop commercial office space. You know, EOS was a successful project for us, but it took us 2 years to lease it up. We built it 100% speculative, which means that we built it without a tenant, right? And so the goal was to build it and they will come. That's part of you know, the development mantra, but it took 2 years for them to come. And you know, which was way behind schedule from our standpoint. I have proposed projects on the 17 acres to the south of our EOS site, as well as been a part of virtually every other pursuit that the park sees on a national basis. It's a targeted big tenant park. I mean, that's what we call it. We see a lot of interest from national corporations in the park, and that's actually picking up, quite honestly, you know, over the last 6 months, surprisingly during the pandemic. The reason for the use change on this site is that it's not conducive to office from our perspective. 6.5 acres, and it being as narrow as it is, doesn't really represent the type of product that you would build in this location. At the most, you could probably fit about 100,000 square foot office building here, which doesn't move the needle a whole lot because you have to maintain about a 3.5 to 4 per thousand parking ratio for commercial office space, which is something tenants still focus on. And even looking at this aerial, you can see the sea of parking that goes along with these suburban office parks, which I hope someday changes, because being an owner of these parks, buildings in these parks, the parking is not utilized nearly to the extent that the tenant thinks they will need the parking. But it drives a lot of the decision and the marketability of sites like this. And so I guess my point with all that is, and we've brought this before council previously, like you mentioned in March, is that this site, it just won't be commercial. And I'm the guy that would make it commercial, being a proponent of Interlochen and building office space in the park. It's just not feasible. And so I know that the issue that has been identified as sort of a loss of projected revenue from switching this from residential to commercial, but I don't foresee this maybe ever being a commercial office building. And so that might be something to take into consideration. I will also say over the last decade, the park has been shifting very much so into a live, work, play environment. I don't think the founders of the park necessarily saw that coming, but from a relationship standpoint, which I have relationships with all the people that manage Webroot or Oracle or Vail, they like the residential components coming into the park because it allows them to recruit and retain employees. And so that's a new dynamic, I think, in Interlochen, and one that is pretty positive from our perspective. I think it allows for a more dynamic business park. This isn't something that it's unlike a lot of business parks that you see, certainly even the tech center, where amenities are very, very distant and people are still traveling a ways to work. The idea being that most of the people that occupy this building will end up working for various industries within the park. John James, I don't think he's on the phone tonight, but he has been a part of Interlochen since the late 90s. He bought the land from J.G. Boswell. There's quite a history with Interlochen. If anybody cares to know about it, I'd be happy to, in a different meeting, share some of it. But here we are this evening, and I'm not going to get into the details of the project. I'm going to pass it over to Elliot Marks, who I work very closely with, who's running this project for our firm, and he can just quickly hit on some of the details.
Thanks, Jay. Move to the next slide, please. My name is Elliot Marks. I work with Hines in the Denver office. I'll be covering some of the points about how our team has been engaging with both the City of Broomfield and other entities throughout this process. Our team already presented our concept plan to this committee a few months ago. Today, we will not be reviewing a site plan because we are just here to ask for the PUD amendment to alter the use change of the site from commercial to multifamily. We decided to break the standard process into two pieces and are here today only asking for a PUD amendment. We will be back at this committee at a later date to review a site plan as we advance through the site development plan process. Over the last 6 months, our team has been working with the Interlochen Owners Association's Architectural Control Committee, or the ACC. The committee provided feedback on our site plan, as well as guidance on other items like adding a golf net to protect from errant golf balls from the adjacent golf course and enhancing the landscaping around the site perimeter. After a review process, the Architectural Control Committee approved our use change from commercial to residential. Next slide, please. Our initial plan included asking for a variance from the code to allow us to build less parking than required. After receiving feedback from the Planning and Zoning Commission, our team decided to remove the parking variance from our request. We appreciate the guidance of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we were able to go back to the drawing board to create a design that allows for enough parking to meet the city code. Next slide, please. Our team received comments from the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport and was able to incorporate their feedback into our design and operations process. We have been fully responsive to the airport. They recommended a sound attenuation level for our design to mitigate airport noise, and we were able to incorporate that into our plans. They also recommended that we provide notifications to future residents, making them aware of potential noises from the airport, which we will now do. We also have been in communication with the FAA, and they approved our project after their own review. Next slide, please. In closing, I want to reiterate that today, all we are here to ask for is an amendment to the existing PUD. We will be back at this committee at a future date with a detailed site plan. Thank you very much for your time. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Marks and Mr. Despard. Next, we proceed with public comments, but there are none, so we'll go straight to council member comment. And we'll start with Councilmember Law Evans.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So I'm curious if I can ask for a brief answer from the applicant, why you decided to break this up into the text amendment and the site plan approval?
To answer directly, the way that that we pursue development opportunities made it more conducive to address the PUD amendment first. We resolved that we did not want to get far into a design process and present a comprehensive and baked design to the committee, only to receive changes later that might sort of delay our process or become costly over time. From the way, again, that we do developments and look at de-risking projects from our own financial perspective, and it makes more sense for our investors to achieve the PUD amendment before and then move through the process separately, even if it takes more time.
I see. Well, and I appreciate that from your standpoint. I think that explanation makes a lot of sense. From my standpoint, from the city standpoint, I don't think it does, because from what I can tell, you're asking us to give you a vested right and approval of something when we don't really know what we're going to be approving. Number one, we don't really know what your plan looks like. We haven't gotten feedback from affordable housing, et cetera, et cetera. So on that basis, I'm inclined to say no. But as you alluded to, or as your presentation alluded to, we do have a very significant, from my perspective, a very significant hurdle to overcome with regards to the conversion from a commercial zoning to residential zoning. And I agree with you. This is a tough piece of property. Again, we've seen a lot of these lately. It's just a tough piece of property. And the original, you're absolutely correct in that the original ideal goal for Interlochen was to have it be a business park, and that has changed. Nonetheless, there is still this impact to our long-range financial plan that we have to deal with. That's not an abstract for us. And I guess from my perspective, I haven't heard anything persuasive on the other side of the equation that makes me want to go ahead and give you folks leeway to go ahead and start down that road. When I don't know what you're going to build. I don't know how it's going to work with our affordable housing. I don't know what other variances you're going to ask for. I don't know any of that. So at this point in time, I am not in favor of this. It may be beneficial to your investors to split it up this way, but I do not see the benefit to the city and county of Broomfield to do it that way. So Mayor Pro Tem, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Lindstedt.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate it. I think this area is in need of additional residential units. We really do need it in Interlochen. I think it was a mistake not including more. I'm okay with this, but I hear Councilmember Law Evans' concern. It is really strange to be getting this in two parts. I did have one question for the developer. Was the 4 stories that you're thinking about? Was that just because of the Interlochen height requirements, or why are we capped at 4 stories here?
I can answer that question. So we're capped at 4 stories because of the product type that we seek to build. It's a replication of a product type that we executed successfully in San Antonio, Texas, that we think fits very well in the market with the comparable adjacent properties and with the renter type. I will also note at previous meetings, we presented a site development, or we presented site plans. We also have been working with the Housing Advisory Committee and met with them about 5 or 6 months ago on coming to an affordable housing solution. It was actually a really fantastic meeting, and it was really refreshing to work with an affordable housing or an inclusionary housing group that that was interested in hearing feedback from the development community. And honestly, we do this all over the state of Colorado, and it was an incredibly productive meeting. We spent time explaining to them why we're interested in paying the fee in lieu of about $1.4 million. They provided feedback to us. And again, I think we had some follow-up as well, but we had a very productive conversation, at least from our end, around not only the inclusionary housing ordinance, but also previously a concept site plan. So we do know what we are building here.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you'll get the approval for the change of use before the full plan, but if it was up to me, I'd grant the parking variance and I'd go high. Density is good in this area. That would be that's my 2 cents. Yeah, I mean, I'll support this, but it is a little bit unusual, the situation here. So thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilmember Schaaf.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So thank you to staff for bringing this, PUD amendment separate from the SDP. I feel this is a better use of time and resources for staff, for council, and the applicant, especially since there was some concerns out of the concept review regarding the long-range financial plan. So, by doing it this way, the applicant can assure that before they continue to spend more time and money, as well as staff time, that they basically have the okay before moving forward. And again, that was because of the concerns coming out of the concept review with this council regarding the long-range financial plan. So I'm happy to see that staff went this route, because I think that this serves everybody best. I am okay with adding multifamily residential as an allowed use on this parcel, but with that support doesn't mean it's going to guarantee my support for the upcoming project. I don't know what that project is going to entail. Like I said, we saw that in the concept review, but changes are made. But I am okay allowing multifamily residential on this lot. I do think that needs to be included on this parcel and in this development. One thing to note, just to kind of set up that SDP moving forward, I do sit on the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport Noise Roundtable along with Councilmember Jezierski. And I do have concerns about the airport noise. I know that there was some feedback from the airport regarding this. The subject property is located in the influence area, but it's outside of the airport critical zone and the runway protection zone. However, even though it doesn't sit in those zones and it sits away from the airport, it does sit under the airport flight loop around the airports, where a lot of those test flights are being circled around the airport. And that's where we're getting that noise is under that loop. So, because of the change in use on this property from commercial to residential, and as this project moves forward, I will be looking for sufficient disclosures to the potential tenants, as well as inclusion of construction materials to mitigate potential sound from that airport and from those airplanes that are flying in that loop. So that's all the comments I have. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilmember Jezierski.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to echo pretty much the exact comments that you just heard from Councilmember Schaaf and Councilmember Lindstedt. Definitely some concerns with going from commercial to residential and the impact to our finances here as a city. But I agree with your explanation as to why you need to do it this way. And I also believe, just myself, that adding residential to this area does sort of increase the vibrancy of the entire Interlochen park itself. I know that's been a trend that we've been seeing for a number of years now, and having a mix of commercial, residential, and hopefully some retail close by as well does provide more of a, I guess, complete city feel. I know we're doing that and pushing that same model in other parts of our community. So I agree. I think that add vibrancy to the community. I think it will, as you mentioned, a lot of the people that live there probably will be working in the nearby businesses as well. And I'm also okay with doing it in this manner. Today, we were just approving your ability to, if we approve it, your ability to put residential into this area. We are not approving a specific project itself. That will be coming back to us at a later date, which, as you've heard, may or may not be approved depending on some of the parameters and what you actually present to us. So no guarantees that that part 2 makes it through, but I am okay with the idea of residential in this neighborhood. Do you share some of maybe the concerns with part 2 of this going forward? And as far as the airport close by, I'll agree with Councilmember Schaaf. I think the big thing is for me also would be just proper disclosures. I'm okay with you putting residential in here, but make sure that you are being very clear to the residents and to the tenants that there are airplanes that are going to be flying overhead, maybe at a regular basis. So definitely going to want to see that. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tessier.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So if you get the green light on this and the next steps, how soon would you be ready to build?
10 to 12 months.
Okay, awesome. So I remember you at the concept review. I think there was another developer who wanted to do affordable housing or something like that. And the way the cash in lieu kind of worked out with the other developer, it was pretty impressive. And I just remember that conversation, and I remember all of the direction that the different commissions provided, and grateful to hear that you implemented them in your presentation today. I don't share the same concerns that were brought up. It is time for us to get our housing fund set up. It is time for us to have the affordable housing. Things are changing, the economic vitality. I don't doubt that we're going to lose an opportunity to our long-range financial plan. I feel like we have the right people on staff to make sure that that won't happen. And I also know that times are changing, and we need to kind of move with the times. And so I do like the idea of residential here. So I don't think you'll hear a lot of barking like my neighbor's dogs. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. Just really briefly, I'm sure that I'm okay with this change from mixed-use commercial to residential, understand that impact on long-range financial plan. I believe we talked about this as part of this concept review, where we don't want to see this trend. We need to make sure that this isn't something we do lightheartedly, but it's okay here. And just to confirm, so that I don't want to see some kind of bait and switch type thing, what we saw at the February 16th, 2021 concept review, that's still the basic same proposal. Like, you wouldn't come back with like a lower density residential, that is your intention, correct?
Our intention is to build 234 units within a 4-story building. So
okay.
Yeah, it would be the same.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Is that it for council member comments? Councilmember Schaaf?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to echo Councilmember Anderson's last comment regarding the kind of the trend in Interlochen, and I just wanted to point out my appreciation for Mr. John K. James's correspondence to staff and to council regarding the parcels that are still available for development and what they planned development on those those parcels will be. I just wanted to show my appreciation for that and kind of the assurance that that this will not be the trend with those additional parcels there in Interlochen.
Thank you. And I definitely can support this because I see that it would actually promote and serve our needs for more walkability. If the people that work in that area can live in that area, then you've cut out the need for all the parking lots and the concrete jungle. So there being no further comments, the public hearing is closed. Next is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2021-86. Will the clerk please read proposed resolution number 2021-86 by title?
Resolution number 2021-86, authorizing and approving Interlochen Advanced Technology Environment PUD plan and preliminary plat, 13th Amendment to add additional residential units.
Is there a motion, Councilmember Schaaf?
I move that resolution number 2021-86 be adopted.
Councilmember Tessier, is there a second?
Yes, ma'am, second.
Will the clerk please call the roll? Oh wait, I forgot to say, is there any discussion on the amendment? Okay, no. Then will the clerk please call the roll?
Hinkle.
Yes.
Jezierski.
Yes.
Law Evans.
No.
Lim.
Yes.
Lindstedt.
Yes.
Schaaf.
Yes.
Tessier.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Castriata.
Yes. That passes 8-1. Thank you. Our next item under council business this evening is council's consideration first of proposed ordinance number 2156, amending the Broomfield Municipal Code relating to reverse setbacks to residential from pre-production oil and gas facilities. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anna Bertonzetti, Director of Planning, and Director of Strategic Initiatives, Tammy Yellico, will walk us through this item. We have several amendments to also discuss. Many thanks to Council Member Anderson and Council Member Lim for the upfront work for this evening's discussion. With that, Ms. Bertonzetti.
Thank you, and good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Next slide, please. As was mentioned, this is a first reading for the ordinance regarding reverse setbacks from pre-production wells. And this ordinance came about based on study sessions that were held in March and April of this year. The background information for those discussions can be found in the staff memorandums for the study sessions. And the staff memorandum and presentation for this evening was focused on just the ordinance regarding the pre-production wells, the exemptions that are included in the ordinance, the regulations as they relate to existing and planned residential, and then the potential amendment that was included in the staff memorandum. Next slide, please. So based on the discussion from the April 29th, 2021 study session, Ordinance 2156 was drafted to provide a reverse setback of 2,000 feet to residential units from pre-production wells. It provides exemptions from previously approved and existing residentials, and it also includes an exemption for property that is currently zoned A1A, so that's an Adams County legacy. Next slide, please. The first map that we are showing this evening shows the 2,000-foot reverse setback area from pre-production wells. You can see that all of our existing pre-production wells are along the Northwest Parkway, kind of in the center of the map. A higher resolution map was provided in the staff memorandum for reference. The pre-production phases include increased well activity due to drilling and completion phases. And so that was why the study sessions previously identified the 2,000-foot setback as the ideal to bring forward this evening. Next slide, please. Staff compiled a list of potential projects located within 2,000 feet from pre-production wells, and these were then divided into those upcoming residential proposals with vested rights and without. And this was included in the staff memorandum. Ordinance 2156 would not apply to the residential lots or units planned within a site development plan approved prior to the effective date of the ordinance, and residential lots or units that are planned within a planned unit development district approved prior to the effective date of the ordinance. This particular map is showing existing homes and vacant residential lots that are within the impacted area of the reverse setback. So this map shows, as I mentioned, this is lots with existing residential homes within the 2,000 feet of the pre-production walls. Next slide, please. On the next slide, we just have a higher resolution, or actually a closer up view around the pre-production wells, and the higher resolution map is included in the staff memorandum. Residential uses in Broomfield exist to the northeast. At the northeast corner, you can see impacted within that setback, northeast corner of Huron Street and 160th Avenue, within Tierra Estates subdivision at 153rd Avenue, the Mustang Acres subdivision, which is on the west side of Huron Street, just north of 154th Avenue, Zuni Estates at Zuni and 156th Avenue, and a portion of the lots within Red Hawk Estate subdivision. Ordinance number 2156 exempts all of these existing residential units that were constructed and the lots that were created prior to the effective date. Also, during the study session on April 29th, some city council members indicated a desire to consider exempting larger rural residential lots where individual property owners may seek to divide the property. And this is incorporated into Ordinance 2156 through an exemption of A1A, that's Adams County Legacy zoned properties. These are larger lots where a minimum lot size with private septic and public water is 1 acre in size. And this covers generally the Wilcox subdivision for reference. Next slide, please. So to summarize some of the exemptions that we discussed and are identified in the memorandum, residential units constructed prior to the effective date of the ordinance would be exempted. Residential lots within a plat approved prior to the effective date would be exempted. Residential lots and units that were planned within a site development plan approved prior to the effective date, those units and lots that would have been planned as part of a planned unit development plan approved prior to the effective date of the ordinance. And finally, those properties that are currently zoned A1A Adams County Legacy Agricultural District. Next slide, please. So this is one of a few steps as we work through the discussion regarding reverse setbacks. An additional study session is needed for further discussion regarding some of the other elements, and additional ordinances would be brought forward based on the outcome of those study sessions. In the staff memorandum, there is an amendment that was presented to address oil and gas setbacks, potential oil and gas setbacks from plugged and abandoned wells. And also, as was mentioned, the city attorney is prepared to help facilitate additional discussion regarding other potential amendments to the ordinance this evening. And as always, staff is available to answer any questions that you may have. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Bertanzetti. We'll now proceed to public comments, and there again are comments. Now we're at 7:39, and I know that the discussion and question part of this is going to probably be lengthy. If council wants to take our 10-minute break now and then come back and start this, I'd be fine with that, but it's up to you guys. I got a yep on chat. I'm going to do the break now, and then we'll be fresh. Okay, well then 7:40, we'll see you back at 7:50. Thank you.
The Access Live event is in music hold.
All right, we are back. If you want to take us off music hold, we will resume.
Music hold ended.
Thank you. Welcome back. Next are questions from City Council. Members should limit themselves to questions during this portion. The time to introduce amendments and state positions for or against this item is later. Are there any questions from council members? No questions from, okay, Councilmember Jezierski.
Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. But I guess I do have a couple quick questions. So this is just going to affect the pre-production phase, and I could probably answer this myself. I just want to make sure, how long of a time period is that typically?
I guess it depends on if the company goes bankrupt. Sorry, Ms. Burton-Zetti.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, I agree. There's a lot of variables that play into how long this would be. Pre-production for our existing wells could be extended because of the existing status for the operator for those wells. So we don't have a time frame. I'm not sure if Ms. Yellowcomb wants to add in what would be more typical.
Yeah, and I totally get that. I'm just looking for something, because I guess I'm not as concerned about the existing wells. I'm just wondering if there were any additional wells in the future in Broomfield, what that would potentially look like.
It typically depends on the number of wells in the well pad too. But like if it's 18 well pad like Livingston, you are looking at a year to a year and a half probably.
Okay.
For everything to production.
Okay, and that's just what I was looking for. I mean, I was looking for anything specific. We're talking, a couple of years. We're talking 10 years, 20 years, 100 years. Just to get a, for myself and for anyone who may be listening in, just an idea of what the actual time frame we're talking about with this particular amendment today. And then it looked like, from what I saw on the maps, with the existing wells that we have along the Northwest Parkway right now, this doesn't really impact anything, right? I mean, it's really open space over there. There's some existing neighborhoods. Is there anything that's really is this really doing anything for the existing wells, I guess?
Councilmember Jezierski, I think the most impact that we have heard from property owners are those that have potential to change zoning under the comprehensive plan and may be interested in redeveloping their residential properties. Some that we have spoken to with staff would be at the northeast corner of 160th Avenue and Huron Street. There are 5 property owners there that under the comprehensive plan would be eligible for a much more dense development similar to the surrounding baseline project and are currently developed with rural agricultural uses and an RV boat storage. So if they were to redevelop, they would not be able to add residential density during the pre-production stage of the wells.
Okay, so they would be limited for potentially a couple of years, maybe more or less, depending on the situation. I get that, but okay. So, but it is a limited period of time that they would be impacted, at the very least. Okay, so that helps me with that. And then it seems to me that the real teeth to this would be if there were any future wells ever planned in Broomfield. And it's my understanding that there's very limited locations as to where that could actually be, really sort of our northeast corner. Is it still true that the baseline community would be exempted from these regulations?
Councilmember, that is correct. The baseline community has vested rights that have been in place for over 20 years and would be exempted.
Okay. All right. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more council member questions? Seeing none, next is council's consideration of proposed ordinance number 2156. Will the clerk please read proposed ordinance number 2156 by title?
Ordinance number 2156, amending certain sections of Title 16 of the Broomfield Municipal Code relating to reverse setbacks to residential from pre-production oil and gas facilities.
Is there a motion? We need a motion to get to the amendment. I don't think I can do the motion and share the meeting. Councilmember Anderson. You're muted.
There you go. I move that ordinance number 2156 be adopted on first reading and ordered published in full.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Schaaf.
Wait, was I supposed to read the rest of it?
Well,
public hearing.
The whole thing is a little bit longer. Is it on the?
That was sufficient.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion? Staff, can you please put the amendment language on the screen? We'll start with Amendment 1. Councilmember Lim or Anderson, would you like to make a motion? Okay, we'll start with you, Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. This first amendment is simply to create consistent language between this chapter and the oil and gas chapter. Using consistent language as we define the location that the oil and gas setbacks are measured from is important for clarity and consistency. Our current oil and gas regulations define the term oil and gas location to mean a definable area where an operator has disturbed or intends to disturb the land surface in order to locate an oil and gas facility. In our previously adopted regulations, the term oil and gas location is used for determining the 2,000-foot setback from existing uses. So this would maintain consistency, and that was in section 1754-070D. So if, let's see here, this is really hard to see, but all this is changing is instead of saying oil and gas facilities in some places, it would say oil and gas locations in all the places. So we're always talking about the well pad and would include let's see here. So the use of oil and gas well in 1628-180 in E would also define the distance from an existing oil and gas well where there could be multiple wells on one location and equipment such as ECDs or other devices that have emissions of concern that would also be on that location. So not just the well head, but the actual equipment of concern. So yeah, just changing well to location is on each of these places. So do I make the amendment or do we do this discussion first?
You make the amendment. We get a second.
Okay, so I move to amend subsections A, B, C, E, and F of Broomfield Municipal Code 1628-180 so that all references to oil and gas facilities, or wells are changed to oil and gas location or locations.
Second, Councilmember Lim.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Jezierski.
Yes.
Law Evans.
Yes.
Lim.
Yes.
Lindstedt.
Yes.
Staff.
Yes.
Tessier.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Castriata.
Yes. That passes
Hinkle.
unanimous. Oh.
Yes.
Hinkle. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. We will now return to the main discussion. Is there any further discussion on the ordinance? Councilmember Lim.
I would like to introduce amendment number 2 for consideration. Amendment number 2, the purpose of this amendment is to clarify that the regulation should be applied to wells located outside of Broomfield's boundary. The amendment adds the following language to subsection 1628-180 A, B, C, and E. regardless of whether said oil and gas facility or location is located within or outside of the city and county of Broomfield. So this would handle the situation where perhaps in the northeast corner of Broomfield, where an oil and gas development is sited in unincorporated Weld County. And we do not have any direct authority over that as the city and county of Broomfield, but we would want to be able to protect the health and safety of residents so that they are not living close to that oil and gas location outside of our boundaries.
Thank you. Would you like to state it in amendment form?
Sure. I move to amend subsections A, B, C, and E of BMC 1628-180 to add the phrase, quote, regardless of whether said oil and gas location is located within or outside of the city and county of Broomfield, end quote, as shown on the slide at the end of A, B, and C, and within the first sentence of E.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Anderson?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Law Evans,
Yes.
Do you have it?
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaaf,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Groom, Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezierski.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Now we will, is there another amendment? Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. Additionally, I'd like to propose or introduce Amendment 4. And this one has to do with just a little oversight here. We have reference to existing or proposed oil or gas locations. But what we're missing is between the time they're proposed and before they're existing, there's a phase where they are permitted. And so I can find, and I think that's really the let's see, hang on a second. So we want to make sure that 1628-180C and E should also be triggered by an already permitted oil and gas location. And this is necessary to prevent a loophole which would allow a residential developer to push through a residential plat where there's already permitted but not yet constructed oil and gas locations within the specified distance. So I move to amend subsection C and E of BMC 1628-180 to add permitted to the type of oil and gas location for which the setbacks in those provisions apply, and related to remove the term in the phases located in subsections A and B.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Lim?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Henkel?
Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Anderson and Councilmember Lim, for bringing these amendments forward. You guys have done such great work, and this one I'm hesitant on, and it's not because I don't want to protect people. I just want to know and understand better timing when it comes to permitting and how long that would add on to an already existing location. We could have a developer put it on hold while they do pre-production, and then they can, move people in. I wonder, Yeah, I want legal's take on that as far as a developer standpoint as well. So this isn't necessarily a no forever. It is a no for today, but I would like to have some legal look at this amendment and really kind of discuss this further. Thank you.
Councilmember Lindstedt.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm leaning yes on this one, but I wouldn't mind seeing a legal memo on all the possible implications of these last two amendments. And I guess I would be curious if council members Anderson and Lim would be okay with maybe delaying these until second reading, these last two. I don't want to gum things up too much, but it wouldn't be I wouldn't mind getting a little bit more detail on these after hearing Councilmember Henkel's concerns. So thank you.
Did our city and county attorney want to weigh in on the legal review of this amendment? Rogers?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I won't at this time, but I will reply by email to Councilmember Henkel's question, and I'll include all of council on that issue. And then as far as getting the developer's view, we could do some outreach to some developers and get their input on this and have that provided for council before second reading.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. And that was discussed, the possibility of delaying this to second reading, which I am fine with that. I just want to make sure that we understand that there's like the three phases of the well being proposed and the well being actually permitted, which is the missing phase, and then actually existing. So that is, I think that is fine to wait as long as we as a council are okay with amendments at second reading.
Thank you, Councilmember
Thank
Anderson.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, no, that's okay. Go ahead, Ms. Rogers.
Councilmember Anderson, it's totally acceptable for you to withdraw your motion right now, and then we can renew it when we come back for second reading.
Would you like to do that, Councilmember Anderson?
Do we want more feedback from, I'm not sure what to do here because we haven't, there's no more hands up. I don't know if Councilmember Lim wants to weigh in because she was also part of this amendment to see if she has any thoughts, but if that's if council needs more time, I think the appropriate thing is to withdraw, but I don't know if, yeah, she's got her hand up.
Councilmember Lim?
Yeah, I'm fine if council needs more time. What I guess I would want to throw out for council consideration is that we have an example of why this amendment is needed nearby us. We have the case where there's Erie neighborhoods who were suddenly surprised now that well sites are going forward, that were permitted years ago, and now the oil and gas developers are finally going forward, and the neighborhoods were not informed and are, suffering impacts because of it. So that is what this amendment, adding the reverse setback from the permitted oil and gas locations, is supposed to accomplish. So we don't have residential neighborhoods started after there's already a permitted well pad there that's just waiting, in the wings to be constructed. So that's the purpose. I just wanted to throw that out there for council's consideration for the context of this amendment before, but I'm fine with delaying this and the next one, which is about the proposed oil and gas locations, until we have more legal advice.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
So I will withdraw that proposal.
Thank you. Is that sufficient, Ms. Rogers?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you. And there is one or two more. There's number 4. Okay, so who wants to present this one? Councilmember Lim? I've never done amendments before, so I'm totally, there's no script for this. Councilmember Lim?
I just want to make a suggestion. I'm sorry. Even
Okay.
though these amendments, like Councilmember Lim just indicated that probably proposed could wait for next week too, even though they might not be formally introduced until second reading, there's nothing stopping council from engaging in a discussion at this stage about both Amendment 3 and Amendment 4 if there's more discussion to be had. So I don't want to kibosh any of the discussion. So I apologize for interrupting.
That's okay. Thank you. Would Councilmember Lim like to introduce this? Or Councilmember Anderson? We could introduce it. All right, Councilmember Lim.
Okay. So Amendment 4 covers the case of the proposed oil and gas location as a trigger. And this is to prevent a loophole, which would allow a residential developer to push through a residential plat while there is a pending Form 2 or Form 2A at the COGCC within the specified distance. So I understand this does probably need a little more discussion than even the permitted case that we just entertained. But I want to throw out to council that we could very well face the possibility that in certain cases of development and real estate development and versus oil and gas development timing, that there would be a loophole where we could have in front of us a residential development which we knew would violate the 2,000-foot setback if a oil and gas development that already has the permit submitted to the COGCC is within 2,000 feet. So the question would be before council is, do we anticipate that the development, perhaps, and I'm thinking particular in unincorporated Weld County, will be approved? And then we would be, in the meantime, perhaps approving a residential development within that 2,000 feet, and then end up perhaps unintentionally not protecting our residents who live near that border. So it's a question that I want to propose for thought, because we don't want to have an unintended loophole based, on the premise that we all have good intentions, that basically we don't want residents living within 2,000 feet of an oil and gas development. Thank you.
Thank you. Any council member questions or comments on this? Since it's just a discussion, Councilmember Henkel.
Yeah, thanks for this discussion. I think this is really, well thought out. And I also think that we could think it, through even more, just talking about how long do these permits look like now at the COGCC now that things have changed? What does it look like for a developer to develop and then not have the residents in there? So I think sort of the same, premise as the last one. I just want to make sure that we're making an educated decision here. And I think, I think we're dealing with two entities, not only oil and gas, but also People that would be moving in close and what that timeline could look like for people. We're even looking at that for even some of, like the Davis well, right? We're having people not move in yet. So this is just open for discussion, and I just would like to have legal take on this, and then also, just the length of a proposed oil and gas location, and then also the length of permit and what that looks like, particularly, post SB 181. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. I just want to share 2 points in this discussion. Understand that I'm assuming that the intent is to not introduce this amendment tonight. But we have, for years now, we have, gone through this process of understanding, that from the time that oil and gas became, we understood that oil and gas was going to happen in Broomfield until now. And the CDPHE has come out with the study showing that, residents within 2,000 feet, and it could even go beyond because they limited their study to 2,000 feet. But we understand that need, and so many of us, press for change at the COGCC too, to start to add that 2,000-foot setback, before they're developing these wells near communities. And that's those same issues, the same, the pipe pulling and the issues that residents underwent during that phase, the noise of these operations, the emissions from, I guess it would be drilling, fracking, and flowback. These are, and the trucks on the roads in those communities. These impacts apply to those homes that we approve after a site is permitted. So that whole phase from proposed to permitted to actually being developed, the residents are going to feel those same impacts, whether the COGCC approved it or we approved it. So approved our development near those homes. So that was the first point. And there was another piece and I completely forgot what it was. So I guess I'll leave it at that this is really, this making sure that we're not building close to these sites is very critical. Oh, the second one was the COGCC. They have an expiration date on their permits. So I think just a quick inquiry from Ms. Yellico or one of our staff members could get an answer to the typical expiration date of from the time that they put their Form 2, like what does it look like for a Form 2A? And then if they are permitted, what is that time frame before they have to have the development in? So that is good information to have. But those, regardless of that time, those impacts still would apply. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Yellico, would you like to respond to that? I think she's on. I saw her. Ms. Yellico?
I'd like to double check the timing under the new rules and bring that back with our next discussion on this amendment, if you would allow that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, is there any further discussion? Did you want to stick with the amendment or withdraw it, council members?
I'll withdraw it, and hopefully we will get enough information to clear up any concerns, and we can bring it back on second reading.
Councilmember Tessier.
I just wanted to thank council members Lim and Anderson for their endless work on promoting the health and safety of residents, residents that are here now, residents that are future. And I really just wanted to just thank you for your patience, for your detail, for closing those loopholes. I feel like, where hopefully we won't be gaslit, and we'll continue to keep those loopholes closed. So I just really wanted to take the time to sincerely thank you for all the work that you've all done, and for all the questions and all of the testimonies, and just leading the way for Broomfield. So thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to second that, because I know how much time you guys have spent on really, making sure that we don't experience what we have and what we will again as operations resume. And experience is a brutal teacher, as someone once said, and we have learned the hard way. So preventing this from happening again is definitely top of mind for me as well. Thank you for looking through and looking for the loopholes and looking for ways that we can continue to prioritize health and safety. So now we will return to, I guess, the vote. Oh, Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. I have one more amendment, and this is super easy. Okay. So section 1628-180 makes reference to injection wells, which are, section 180 does not make reference to injection wells, which are additionally prohibited in Broomfield. And it was determined by staff that the term injection wells in the title of this section was a leftover from prior versions of the code and could be removed. Therefore, I move to amend the title heading of BMC 1628-180 to remove the phrase "or injection wells."
Is there a second? Councilmember Lim.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll? Oh, did you want to restate it as a formal amendment? Anybody there on staff? Clerk? Something happened? I can't see who's here. Did CCOB drop off? This is a new one. There's Hoffman. City and County Manager
You guys
Hoffman.
are letting council go rogue?
It looks that way. It looks, we need,
y'all letting us go free.
Let's just vote, Eileen. Take a roll. Let's just do it.
I know. Can I do that? Does it have to be
Probably
clerk?
can.
I think Jennifer's saying we're number one.
Yeah,
That's what
I think
she
she's saying we can do it. I think she's saying it's good if we move forward.
They're calling back in.
And we're number one with the right.
This was the first. We never.
I can't wait till in-person meetings.
Me neither.
Now she's giving us a high five. Now she's saying we're okay.
Countdown. And you're back.
Right now.
Oh,
Okay,
now
now?
I hear you.
Are we better?
Yeah, we're here. Are you?
We're here.
We are now. We
Well,
just
would
want to
the
make sure
clerk-
everybody was paying attention to this
Okay.
amendment section. So, yes.
Was
Nancy,
the
we-
amendment, did you guys get the amendment or do we have to have it restated?
No, we
We're good.
heard the amendment. It was introduced and seconded, so now there's a vote on the amendment to remove injunction wells from the title.
Perfect. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Lindstedt,
Yes.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezerski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. The city and county attorney's report. Oh, wait, that was for the amendment, right? We have to go back
Right,
now.
now-
Thank you.
Yep. Thank
So
you.
now, will the clerk please call the roll for the ordinance that we did a motion on a long time ago? I think it's 2156. These are hard.
Schaff,
Yes.
Tessier,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Castriata,
Yes.
Hinkle,
Yes.
Jezerski,
Yes.
Law Evans,
Yes.
Lim,
Yes.
Lindstedt.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. All right, moving on is our city and county attorney's report. Ms. Rogers, do you have a report?
No report. Actually, I do have a thank you. I just, to follow up on Councilmember Tessier's statement, I just want to thank Councilmembers Lim and Anderson for the meetings and the work on the reverse setback ordinance and the amendments that were presented tonight. And we'll continue this good process at second reading. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. The city and county manager's report is next. Ms. Hoffman, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. Thank you, and forgive our brief interruption there for just a moment. A couple of different things, and Nancy will be sending out a more in-depth, detailed update with regards to our continued conversations regarding oil and gas, where we are and what comes next. We've had some productive and fruitful conversations, and we anticipate additional ones coming next week. So again, under the client attorney privilege, she'll be sending out a brief update on that. Also, we, after many months of work and updates with council, we appreciate your patience while we finally worked through the agenda items. We are on track. You all now in your email have the packet for next Tuesday. So moving forward, you all will have the full packets a week in advance. We want to appreciate Councilmember Jezerski, who we've been discussing and talking about this for over 2 years. Before my tenure even began, Councilmember Jezerski was really advocating for that time. So we are on track, and happy to say you all have it in your boxes right now. Also, on June 1st, and primarily this is for the public that's watching, but also for a reminder for council, we're back in business to the public on June 1st. There won't be any more appointments. And with the new executive order, the last time we spoke with council, when we were talking about having you all back in session on June 8th, it was with social distancing in mind, as well as masks. That, of course, has now been modified by the governor's order. So masks are recommended for those that are not vaccinated, but not mandated. And social distancing is not something that is a practice either with regards to the council meetings. So we've had the extra dais built. So Mayor Pro Tem is going to be coming in on June 1st to kind of get a feel for what the new setup looks like, and we'll have additional conversations. But given that the public is back on June 1st, restricting the public from the council meetings is not something that we are. We had a conversation with Mayor Pro Tem today. Further restricting that is not something, and we've heard from the public that not that they're going to come rushing back in, of course, but all the more reason that we continue to offer a hybrid approach for the public, for presentations, and for council. We're continuing to solidify that, but again, starting June 1st, when the doors open and the public returns, that also means that the public returns for your first council meeting, which is June 8th. So we will solidify what that hybrid approach looks like. Before we started the meeting tonight, Nancy was listening to the council members in Superior to find out what their end result was. It was a pretty interesting conversation. We will send you that link so that you all can hear that conversation. There's a lot of similar issues, and on the front side and on the back side. So that was pretty interesting to hear what other elected officials are, what their approach looks like and what some of the challenges will be. So the other piece of my update, Vanessa Oldham, Director of Development and DEI, is going to provide council an update on where we are and next steps. Again, we have made, progress probably isn't the right word on how to articulate it. There's been a lot of movement and engagement on the what comes next. We spoke before that council will be engaged in signing up on the trainings. Thank you to Councilmember Tessier and Councilmember Lindstedt for reminding us that for those that work, a 4-hour chunk of time during the week is an enormous commitment on top of everything else. So we did send out a link for sign up for a weekend session as well. Vanessa is joining us tonight to take it from here. Vanessa. So we continue to have connection issues. So I'm going to go ahead and walk council through this. So we have begun the Foundations in Equity training. We are on track working with our consultants to roll that out and have all employees, along with council members, trained by the fourth quarter of 2021 as we move into 2022, ensuring that we're all speaking the same language and coming from the place where the common knowledge from a base perspective is shared among all of us before we move forward. We have begun work and look to complete the equity strategic plan. We all know, this council and this staff in particular, with the challenges with COVID, that a strategic plan is only as good as those that execute the plan. So we are putting a lot of time in this strategic planning process to ensure that it is sustainable, regardless of staff that is here and or council that is here, that this becomes a culture of DEI work and a culture of diversity of thoughts, actions, and individuals. We have translation services. We're all very excited about what this will bring to us. Vanessa and her crew and CMO have worked multi-departmentals in order to bring the translation services. So it will be a swift interaction with folks to be able to provide, Abby, how many languages?
A lot. Vanessa's on.
I'm now going to turn it over to Vanessa so she can provide the specifics. Vanessa, we're on translation services.
All right. Hi, everyone. I apologize. I was in another board meeting. Yes, translation services. And as Jennifer said, we are very excited about the rollout of this. And it'll be about over 200 languages that you can access immediately. And we're in testing mode right now. And people are thrilled by it. It's super exciting. There's a visual component to it. So literally any laptop, any computer, any phone will have access to these translation services, and literally hitting a button and being able to speak to somebody in Spanish. Or even more exciting is I think the sign language component as well. So you have someone who actually will be able to sign right there on a screen. And so we're very excited about that. So testing right now, and then the additional rollout throughout the summer. And then the next thing is the days of recognition. And so we are working to really make sure that that the community as a whole feels like they have a place to have these celebrations within Broomfield. So our advisory board, along with our communications team, has really worked on creating a calendar of events that will go out throughout the year, just to make sure we're recognizing the different cultures and celebrations that go on through our community, and also working to have a place for these celebrations to occur within Broomfield so that people don't have to go to Denver or other places in order to feel like they're a part of our community. Speaking of the advisory team, they did a visioning session with our collaborates, I think it was last week. And through that session, they're going to work to determine their goals, focus, and vision for the upcoming year. We're also close to our pilot for the restorative justice youth diversion program. So we've been working with the school districts, the 17th Judicial, Broomfield Courts, and PD. And so our goal is to get that up and running before school starts in August. And so it'll be a pilot program for youth, mainly for the municipal courts. But the hope is that that will then actually expand to include adults and higher charges as well. And then we are excited that we're in the process of hiring an organizational development and training position as well. And so those interviews actually are going to begin on Friday, and the goal will be to get that person on board soon. And again, just to help solidify sort of our overarching plan within CCOB and the community as we do some just traditional classes, some leadership perspectives. Onboarding will be a big part of what this person was responsible for. Just again, so that we're sure that the culture that we're creating is sustainable. And I think that's it. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Ms. Oldham and Ms. Hoffman. Are there any questions from council? Don't see any. Oh, yes, Councilmember Henkel.
Hi all, I know we aren't running late tonight, so I feel like I really just need to kind of speak, you know, to this program. And I am so proud, and I am also fighting back tears at this point during the evening. Vanessa, you've just done such an amazing job. And I will quote Jennifer Hoffman's famous quotes about multifaceted, multi-pronged, comprehensive, right? So we're talking about something that is just super unique and really much needed in Broomfield. And I feel like I'm really excited about it. And I'm really excited about how, you know, each of our departments is going to be touched by this, and also our residents as well. Our residents are thirsting for this, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm excited for the training. And I don't have any questions right now. I know I will as we move through this, and I might have more questions later on, but I'm just really appreciative of your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Councilmember Tessier.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo, Vanessa, it's so great to see you in this role. Just blossoming, and it's I feel the passion and just see the excitement of the change that has already taken place, the momentum, the partnerships in this community that you have forged in such a short time, and the opportunity for growth, the opportunity to be humble, the opportunity to be vulnerable, the opportunities to just be ourselves while we become the best version of Broomfield that we can possibly be. And I'm so excited for this. I'm so excited for the partnerships, and I really look forward to all of the good things. And I also wanted to say a special thank you to staff, because I know that, you know, some of us who work, but then there's the weekend, which some of the staff has to take on at the weekend. And I'm just like, oh no. So I truly, from the bottom of my heart, like, cannot thank you enough for accommodating the just everybody's schedule, and that is true equity right there. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And is there anyone else that would like to comment or questions about the program? I'm personally looking forward to my training. I signed up. So can't wait to get started and help ensure that everyone in our community feels welcome. Now, next is the legislative update. Ms. Hoffman, is there a staff update this evening?
There is a very brief one. Again, Danae's been walking through council on Fridays. I think they've proven to be, I don't want to say quite successful because no one really knows what that means, but I think they're informative. I think it's generated finally, after a few years of moving through legislation on support and input, I think we finally have a process down that seems to be working. We'll continue to improve it as we go. Danae is going to join us tonight and briefly move through the legislative update. Danae.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Danae Brilliard, City Manager's Office. As you have seen in the news, the Colorado House and Senate have been incredibly busy. With no more than 19 days to go in the 120-day session, there have been over 246 bills left on the calendar. They've wrapped up 383 bills so far. The last time the General Assembly went the full 120 days was in 2019, and there are already 37 more bills introduced in the 2021 session than in 2019. This number does not include the bills that will come to spend that will be coming down the pike to spend the $3.8 billion in federal stimulus dollars. Yesterday, Governor Polis announced how the state will spend the $3.8 billion in stimulus funding from the American Rescue Plan that was signed into law by President Biden in March. The state will receive the funds in the next 60 days. The plan outlined at the press conference yesterday identified $2 billion in spending that will take place during the final days of the 2021 session and includes $1.3 billion towards the state budget to ensure a fiscally sustainable future. Notable allocations that align with council priorities that were highlighted yesterday include $150 million in the 2021 session for housing supply, homelessness, and removing barriers to increase housing affordability, with another $400 million to be spent on the same areas in 2022. $100 million in the 2021 session towards mental and behavioral health programs. This includes substance abuse assistance with an additional $450 million in the 2022 session, $387.5 million for transportation and infrastructure. And then other areas include money to assist college students for degree completion, workforce development, business development, and job creation. So that's just a big update on the stimulus dollars and how much work is left to be done between now and June 12th. If you'll go ahead and go to the next slide, we'll jump into some of the major bills that are still awaiting final action in these last couple of days. First, we'll start with housing bills. Housing Bill 21-1054, which was the housing public benefit verification requirement. This bill, prior to this bill, both federal and state law required that individuals verify lawful presence to receive certain government benefits. This bill removed that requirement and made Colorado the first state to provide public housing benefits regardless of immigration status. This has been signed by Governor Polis. House Bill 21-1117, which was the local government authority promote affordable housing units, also known as the inclusionary zoning bill, has also been passed and signed by the governor, and it clarifies the state prohibition on local rent control laws is not applicable to local laws that restrict rents on newly constructed or redeveloped housing, so long as the local regulation provides options for the property owner or the land developer. So this just clarifies existing law and is passed, and that is very exciting. Additionally, we have Senate Bill 21-173, which was the rights and residential lease agreements. It provides protections for tenants related to late fees, eviction proceedings, and rental agreements by guaranteeing that renters have the right to pay back rent at any point during the eviction process until there's a judgment for possession entered by the court. It was amended today in House Appropriations. We'll review the amendments and provide an update on Friday. And then House Bill 21-1105, which is the Low Income Utility Assistance Bill. It requires investor-owned utilities to collect a monthly energy assistance system benefit charge from each customer beginning October 2021 to help finance the Low Income Energy Assistance Program administered by the Energy Outreach Colorado. We are monitoring that bill and we'll provide an update on Friday as well. Next slide, please. The next theme of bills is the DEAI bills. The first one is House Bill 211075, which has replaced the term illegal alien. Councilmember Anderson brought this up at the very beginning. We just want to let you know that that has been signed by the governor, and we are working with finance and contracts to get our contracts updated by the effective date. House Bill 211011, multilingual ballot access for voters. It did pass and it's waiting for the governor's signature. It increases access to multilingual ballots for voters and requires additional translation services. It kind of follows perfectly with Vanessa's presentation. The specific requirement is that we provide it in counties where either 2,000 citizens or 2.5% of citizens ages 18 and up speak English less than very well and speak a shared minority language at home. Additionally, it requires that the Secretary of State establish a multilingual ballot hotline that people can call to access qualified translators or interpreters. And then the last one under that theme is House Bill 211108, which is the Gender Identity Expression Anti-Discrimination Bill. It expands anti-discrimination laws to cover gender identity and gender expression, and it has been signed by the governor. Next slide, please. Under oil and gas, we've been tracking Senate Bill 21108, which was the pipeline safety bill. The bill directs the Public Utilities Commission to expand its rules related to gas pipeline safety, and it increases the maximum penalty for violations of pipeline safety rules. It was amended in the House Appropriations yesterday. We are currently digesting and reviewing those amendments and hope to have an update at Friday's debrief. Next slide. The next section is elections. House Bill 211071, which Council passed to have an ordinance come back to add ballot language in the November election. It did pass the Senate Finance amended on May 19th, and it is scheduled for the Senate Appropriations Committee tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. We'll be monitoring that as well and provide an update on Friday. Senate Bill 21250, which is elections and votings, passed out of the House Finance Committee on the 20th of May, unamended. It will be heard next by the House Appropriation Committee, but it is not scheduled at this time. And then we also wanted to let Council know that we anticipate a bill coming from the Secretary of State's office next week to provide for county redistricting in early 2022. So if we see that drop, we will provide that update on Friday as well. Next slide, please. Under environment and sustainability, we have Senate Bill 21200, the Reduce Greenhouse Gases, Increase Environmental Justice bill. Council took a formal position of support at the May 11th council meeting, and we are ensuring that elected officials are aware of that position. The bill is intended to build upon the objectives set by the governor's greenhouse gas pollution reduction roadmap, which is kind of ironic as Governor Polis has also stated that he will veto the bill. There has been rumors that the bill sponsors and the governor are working on a compromise through amendments, but we have not seen anything official yet. It was laid over in the Senate today, so we'll continue to monitor with anticipation of it being heard tomorrow. Next is House Bill 211162, the management of plastic products. This phases out single-use plastic carry-out bags and expands food use for food containers. It does authorize the local government to enforce violations and impose civil penalties. It passed the House in early May and was scheduled for Senate, State, Veterans, and Military Affairs today. We weren't able to review what the updates from today were, so we'll provide an update on that on Friday. The last one under this category is House Bill 211189, which is regulate air toxics. The purpose of this bill is to better monitor air toxins emitted by facilities such as Commerce City Suncor, oil refinery, and specifically petroleum refineries, aircraft parts, and auxiliary equipment manufacturing. They have to meet emission thresholds for certain toxic pollutants. And it passed the House. Today it was referred unamended by Senate Finance to Senate Appropriations, and a hearing has not been scheduled yet. Next slide, please. Next is criminal justice reform, which you can tell from the slide. There's a lot of these currently on the docket and under review. The first one is House Bill 211251, which was the appropriate use of chemical restraints on a person. Specifically, the bill limits the use of ketamine. It was referred to Senate Appropriations on May 24th, so just yesterday, and no hearing has currently been scheduled. House Bill 1250 concerning measures to address law enforcement accountability. Many of these that I'm going to talk about right now are in response to SB 217. But this one, House Bill 1250, is really the one that's gaining momentum and moving forward. Senate Bill 2017 allowed for civil action to be taken against a local law enforcement officer for deprivation of an individual's right. House Bill 1250 expands the provision to allow this civil action to be taken against Colorado State Patrol officers in the Department of Public Safety. It also clarifies when body-worn cameras or dash cameras may be turned off and provisions related to the release of the footage. It prohibits peace officer employers from retaliating, and it restricts local law enforcement from presuming an officer's innocence in a use of force case and requires an investigation into these cases instead. This was scheduled for Senate State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee today. We'll review that and provide an update on Friday. Senate Bill 183, Law Enforcement Support and Accountability, was again another response to SB 217. It was postponed indefinitely today. Senate Bill 2162, Jail Population Management, Councilmember Schaaf had brought this one up previously. It has not been postponed indefinitely. In fact, it's actually scheduled for 8 a.m. tomorrow in the Senate Appropriations. But Senator Pete Lee, who was a sponsor of this bill, has come out with a do-over bill. So we don't anticipate this one moving forward, but we will continue to monitor it. And instead, his do-over bill was Senate Bill 21273, which is called pretrial reform. It is different from Senate Bill 62 in many ways, but specifically it omits class 4, 5, and 6 felonies, which are the lowest level felonies in Colorado law. And then it calls for a study to look at policies to safely increase community response in lieu of law enforcement engagement. So that one is currently, was just introduced. It was referred unamended from Senate Finance to Senate Appropriations. And as of today, nothing's been scheduled. And then another one we wanted to call to your attention was Senate Bill 271, misdemeanor reform. So under current law, there are 3 classifications for misdemeanors and 2 classifications for petty offenses. Senate Bill 271 reduces the number of misdemeanor classifications to 2, and it reduces the number of petty offenses to 1. It also creates a new civil infraction classification and then defines how they're punishable. So it tries to make the criteria of what are misdemeanors and petty offenses more clear, and then making sure that the punishments align and are similar across different violations. The bill is expected to result in short-term expenditures, but long-term cost savings. And it was scheduled for Senate Appropriations this morning at 8 o'clock. So we will review that and provide an update on Friday as well. Next slide, please. Next is transportation, and Sarah Grant is off this week, so I'll just give a very brief update. Senate Bill 21260, the sustainability of the transportation system, passed the Senate. The House Committee on Finance moved the bill to Senate Appropriations with amendments as of yesterday. We haven't had time to process those amendments, but we will do that and provide an update on Friday as well. The other bill under transportation is Senate Bill 21238, Front Range Passenger Rail District. And I'm guessing Councilmember Schaaf may be able to provide some additional information, as I believe he testified today in the hearing. It has passed the House and it was referred unamended today from Senate Transportation and Local Government to the Senate Appropriations Committee. Again, we haven't had time to digest those amendments, but we will and provide an update on Friday as well. Next slide. Just a couple of general updates that we discussed on Friday. House Bill 211068, which was insurance coverage for mental health wellness exam. It was unanimously approved in the House Health and Insurance Committee before winning bipartisan support and appropriations in the House Committee of the Whole. It's scheduled for Senate Appropriations tomorrow, so it is moving quickly, even though it was introduced several months ago. Now that it's gained momentum, it is flying pretty quickly. Essentially, under current law, health insurance carriers offering individual or small group health benefit plans must ensure that coverage includes behavioral mental health and substance abuse disorder. While some level of coverage is required, carriers are not currently required to provide coverage for the cost of such services. So this bill requires that health plans provide the coverage for the total cost of an annual mental health examination of up to 60 minutes. The bill goes on to clarify when it would take effect for large employers versus small employers, who's qualified to do the examinations, and then they're required to do a study to see what the impact will be on premiums. We'll continue to keep council updated as that moves through the House. let's see, is that right? Yeah, through the House. And then the last one is just House Bill 21-1317, which is regulating marijuana concentrates. We talked about this a little bit on Friday, but it's specifically aimed at curbing teen use and adult overconsumption of high potency cannabis. So one of the first things it does is it requires a study of high potency marijuana, $1 million for 3 years to be conducted by the Colorado School of Public Health, and then with a public outreach campaign to follow. It does change the law related to physician recommended for medical marijuana, the sale of medical marijuana, and then the sale of medical marijuana concentrate. Specifically, it requires that a physician complete an in-person assessment, review the patient's medical health history, and determine whether a health issue could be exacerbated by the use of medical marijuana. Additionally, it specifies the age of patients age 18 to 21 are not eligible for medical marijuana unless the following conditions are met. They have to get referrals from 2 separate physicians, and then one of the physicians have to explain the risk and benefits of medical marijuana use and provide the documentation of the diagnosis and recommendation. Additionally, under the bill, a medical marijuana store may not sell more than 8 grams of medical marijuana concentrate to a patient in a single day, and no more than 2 grams to a patient in a single day if they are between 18 and 20 years of age. It was amended in House Appropriations today and is moving to the Committee of the Whole, although it's not currently scheduled. So staff will review those amendments that happened today and provide that update on Friday. And then the last bill is Senate Bill 21-279. Councilmember Schaaf had emailed about this bill. It passed unamended by the Senate Finance Committee on Monday, and it's waiting to be added to the Senate calendar. Senate Bill 21-279 allows a board or county commissioner or a city council of a city and county, upon approval of the county treasurer, to temporarily reduce, waive, or suspend delinquent interest payments for property tax payments for any period of time between June 16, 2021 and September 30, 2021. It requires a board of county commissioners or city council to notify the local taxing jurisdictions of the intent. This is a pretty thick bill, so we're still looking and diving into this. And we'll provide a deeper dive on Friday. And with that, that concludes the staff report.
Well, Ms. Brio, that was a wonderful legislative update. Thank you. So much great stuff happening at our Capitol. Are there any, let me check the public comment just in case. Nope. Let's go to council member questions and comments next. Anybody? Councilmember Schaaf.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So thank you for the staff presentation, Ms. Billiard. And, you know, I did have some questions about Senate Bill 21-279, the delinquent interest payment property tax. But it sounds like staff's needing a little bit more time. I would like, with that update on Friday, to hear from our finance team about how this would impact Broomfield. From what we've heard, a lot of county treasurers are in opposition to this bill, but there are some county treasurers that are in support of this bill. So it would be good to hear what kind of impact this is going to have for Broomfield, if any. And I would like staff's expertise on this. The Senate Bill 137, the Behavioral Health Recovery Act, as this one, you know, I think this is a great bill for Broomfield to be supportive of. As conversations have happened with staff, are there any issues with this bill that staff sees?
Let me go ahead and provide just a quick update on what that bill is so that everybody's familiar with it. And then Jennifer, if you have anything else to add, that would be great. So the bill that Councilmember Schaaf is referring to is Senate Bill 21-137, which is the Behavioral Health Recovery Act. It extends, modifies, and finances behavioral health programs throughout state government. And it makes several changes in the law, including continuing the requirements that podiatrists adhere to opioid prescribing limitations. It makes the Harm Reduction Grant Program Fund continuously appropriated to CDPHE. It continues the building of the substance use disorder treatment capacity in underserved areas, which is a grant that would otherwise expire. It requires the perinatal substance use data linkage project to use additional data sources from state administered programs. And specifically, it looks at a lot with state and private prisons around opioid usage. So there's a lot of, I would say, language around clearing up current law and extending current programs. I'll pass it over to Jennifer to see if she has anything else to add. But from what I've seen in the news and from the different organizations that we're involved in, I haven't seen any opposition from any of those organizations, and I haven't seen any strong opinions on either side or concerns, to your point, Councilmember Schaaf. Jennifer, did you have anything to add about that one?
So this is being complemented rather than dumping a bunch of money into a system that we know requires a tremendous amount of funding, but the scope is so large. Polis had signed in the bill that establishes the new Behavioral Health Administration. Lieutenant Governor Primavera has been intimately involved in that. And so again, it's figuring out a structural system to deliver mental health and substance use services across the board. And so again, there's going to be so much federal and state funds coming at the same time, creating that structure to absorb it, to account for it, and have it at the end be something that's meaningful and sustainable is really the focus of this administration as they move forward. Again, it sounds awesome that all of this money's coming in, but when you don't have a structure to support it, many things can happen that not unintended consequences. But again, the absorption is something that I mean, and I'm not being coy with the answer. I'm just thinking through part of the conversation. Actually, Diane Primavera and I had a conversation last night about the magnitude of what is about to happen for the state of Colorado and throughout the nation with regards to substance use and behavioral health. And really being thoughtful. It appears that this administration is really trying to set up a sustainable long-term structure to absorb those funds, get the money in the right hands. So this is going to be a fascinating one to watch. Councilmember Schaaf, thanks for asking about it.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think that with this bill, it's interesting to me because a lot of that money, a lot of those programs are on the ground, in counties, in cities. And that's where that money needs to funnel, but there has to be a process for that. So, I look forward to seeing how this all comes together. And hopefully the funneling of that money is done in a responsible and effective and efficient way moving forward. So, I look forward to more conversations around this bill as it moves forward and kind of seeing how those outcomes come out. And then as well, of course, the delinquent interest payments property tax bill. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I had a question about the ARP fund allocations. And I know I keep getting asked by our congressman, like, what are we going to spend it on? And I know we just got the guidelines last week, but one of the agencies in Boulder was wondering, will the funding be able to cover drug and alcohol treatment programs? And Congressman Neguse, on a call I had with the commissioners in CD2, said if we could make a cogent case that this was creating a public health emergency, which it just may be, it would be a justifiable use of the funds. And I guess that would have to be more of a legal definition.
Well, a legal definition from what the emergency would dictate, Mayor Pro Tem, but really from a public health emergency falling under those definitions. So we have those definitions, so it wouldn't be creating a new definition. I think a lot of, from that regional perspective, if we just look at the demographics and outcomes in Broomfield, it probably wouldn't, we're probably on 4 calls a week on how the funds can be spent, how the accountability piece works, under what circumstances it can be expended. So we're developing an options package for council's review. That will certainly be a part of it, but part of those conversations specific to your question is if our congressional delegation can look at us from a regional perspective and not individual community perspective, then the likelihood of being able to qualify for a public health emergency would be much more attainable than an individual community looking for it. So those are part of the conversations that we had mid last week into this week. So many more conversations on that specific item to come.
That's great information. Thank you. I do know that there are just no treatment facilities right now. There's nothing for people that want to go in. That kind of makes it an emergency.
Well, and so piece of it is the brick and mortar versus the programming. So collectively, if we could, Adams County, Boulder County, start to really, the tripod of Tri-County Health, the likelihood of not only just having the program piece, but creating that brick and mortar, that actual CIP project piece, would be really exciting, number one, and really the intent of what this ARP money is designed to do, right? Which is to make a long-term influenceable impact financially and behaviorally. So everybody's being very mindful. And this collaboration, I think it stems, Mayor Pro Tem, from the cooperation and communication and relationships that were developed through COVID. I think part of that silver lining is that people are really certainly using their head and heart from a strategy perspective, but much less about boundaries, community boundaries than ever has been before. These issues transcend, and it's not a heavy lift to have these conversations anymore about where to house it. It's more about how can we, create that environment to where all of us can benefit regardless of where it's located.
So true. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
I'm sorry, is it 9:08?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I think it is.
There is no business before the Broomfield Urban Renewal Authority or the Arista Local Improvement District Board of Directors, and there are no special reports or requests for future action this evening. Is there any other business to come before the council? There's no further business. This council meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great early night.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.